Hello, I am Sarah from Homespun Childhood. I am a former teacher turned homeschool mom of 3, literacy consultant, homeschool curriculum collector, all those things. Here at Homespun Childhood, I share all things curriculum, reading, homeschool, and more. And today we are going to look through the about to be released or newly released, depending on when you watch this, Math with Confidence 4th grade by Kate Snow. This program, Math with Confidence, has been in development for the past few years, and each year Kate Snow releases the next level of this. So we have 4th grade that is being released in June, and we are going to dig into the instructor guide and the workbooks. So let's go. For those of you who are unfamiliar with Math with Confidence and Kate Snow, she is an amazing resource in the math community and the homeschool community. She has degrees in math and elementary education from Harvard. She has homeschooled her own children. She has worked with countless other children in school systems and through tutoring, and now she has developed a math program. So if there is anyone who is qualified to write a math curricula for homeschoolers, it is her. So let's talk about this program a little bit. One of the things that is really unique, in my opinion, to this program is that it is virtually open and go. The instructor guide is no fuss. You can pull it out with very little to no prep at all and do a solid math lesson. The lessons include memory work, they include recall and pull from the science of learning and the understanding of how the brain works, where we, learn new information, we work on that, and then we tend to forget it a little bit and we space out our learning, and then we come back to it and we review it, and that helps solidify the learning. So I really love that she incorporates memory work and review work into all of the lessons. The workbooks are really nice and straightforward. 3rd grade and up, you have 2 workbooks per program with 3 color pages per lesson. The pages are very much designed to be student friendly. They are not overwhelming. They include a activity page that you do with your student as part of the lesson, a practice page that is more independent practice for your child, and then a review page for each lesson. Let's talk a little bit about how to approach selecting a math curriculum. There are so many programs out there, and I think it's really important to consider that when we are looking at math, we really want to find a program that is rooted in number sense and developing a deep conceptual understanding. There are some programs out there that are a mile wide and an inch deep. They cover a ridiculous amount of topics and they don't go into depth in them. And so while initially some of these programs, like The Good and the Beautiful, for example, it looks like your child is learning and retaining a lot of math, when you go back to the next year or you come to a unit that is requiring you to remember and apply previously taught material, the child has not actually learned it, or they haven't learned it deep enough to be able to apply it at the next level. And so there are several programs out there that really dive into the kind of science of learning and understanding how children learn math, and Math with Confidence is my favorite of those. Now, I want to talk about standards for mathematics really quickly. I have the 4th grade Common Core math standards here. Now, forget your opinions on Common Core and all that. That is another conversation for another day. Knowing that a program is actually aligned with, generally speaking, what is age and developmentally appropriate for mathematics is important. So you can look at your state standards, you can look at Common Core standards, you can look at any kind of standards and just glance through them. You can even just look at the overview and see what are the big things my child should be learning in this year of math. So if we look at the grade 4 and we look at their overview, there are 3 main instructional focuses for 4th grade. We want to work on multi-digit multiplication, work on long division. That's number 1. Number 2, we want to focus on fractions, and that's looking at equivalence, adding and subtracting with the same denominator, multiplying fractions by whole numbers. And then we really want to dig into geometry and thinking about parallel and perpendicular lines, starting to work with some angle measurements, looking at symmetry, and focusing on some of the properties that we can use to compare and organize different shapes. Now we're going to look through Math with Confidence and see, does it include those things? Because if you are, basically working in 4th grade mathematics, you want to make sure the program that you are using is going to do a deep dive on the topics that your child should be learning for math. So this program has 3 books. It has your teacher guide, it has Workbook A and Workbook B. Now, workbook A, you start from the beginning, you move through it, and when you finish workbook A, then you start workbook B. So you don't need to have both of these kind of out at the same time, like some other programs. Let's start with the teacher guide here. Okay, so if we jump right into this table of contents, this is where we're going to be looking to see, does this program include those main things that we want to be teaching? Thinking back to our sheet, okay, multi-digit multiplication and long division. Okay, we start with review of multiplication and division. We have mental multiplication, mental division, long division, written multiplication part 2, 1 and 2. Okay, then we're looking at fractions. Does this talk about fractions with mixed numbers and denominators and all that? So we have fractions here. And looking down here, equivalent fractions. Okay, so we could obviously dig in deeper to see, does it really go into those details? And then geometry. Does it talk about parallel and perpendicular sides, angle measurements, and symmetry? So we have a whole section on angles here, and we could dig in more to geometry here. So kind of comparing, does this cover the main topics? So far, looking good, but we can dig in more. All of Math with Confidence programs, regardless of the grade level that you were looking at, are going to have the same format. We have our Welcome to Math with Confidence, talking about how the program is developed and the different things you can look for. We have our introduction here, going over the goals, deep conceptual understanding, proficiency with fundamental skills, positive attitude, overview. Goes into a breakdown of the units and how each unit is laid out. All of the units are laid out the same way. We have our overview, what your child will learn, a lesson list of all the activities, materials you'll need, and some notes about teaching. Goes into a breakdown of how to read the lessons. Okay, so if you're starting this program and you're not familiar with the Math with Confidence way, definitely read through this introduction. It will give you a understanding of how the program is designed. Some more details about lessons, independent practice, enrichment lessons, which are optional. This, even though it's 4th grade, it's still including picture books to go with each unit, and they're not required, but you can pull those in. Enrichment activities and a unit wrap-up, which is a review and assessment, okay? I really do love that starting in, I think, 3rd grade, they include a unit wrap-up at the end of each chapter. This is a nice way to make sure that your child is understanding the material, and they give you a nice breakdown of kind of what the different sections of the unit wrap-up mean. They talk about the pacing and the checkpoints. They talk about whether to stick with the lesson or to move on. This is really important. Some programs don't really have that built in. You know, how do you know that your child is understanding the curriculum? How do you know they're ready to move on and they've mastered it enough or they understand it enough? Like, what does that look like? They talk about scheduling. If you teach 4 lessons a week, it'll take 36 weeks. So that, you know, in general, it's a 36-week program. We have our material kit list here. Math with Confidence is a program that is hands-on, and it does include manipulatives, but it is, generally speaking, very minimal. If you have been using Math with Confidence before, you will already have most of the items needed for 4th grade. The only things that would be a new addition would be a protractor for drawing shapes with certain angles. But otherwise, it's, you know, counters, play money, pattern blocks, that kind of stuff. And then we jump right in. So all of the Kate Snow programs, they start with review. And so the first unit is all review. I'm not going to dive into a first unit lesson just because it is review. We're going to actually skip ahead a little bit. So unit 1 is review. Unit 2, place value with large numbers. Unit 3 is mental multiplication. We're going to look at Unit 4. So Unit 4 is fractions and mixed numbers. Again, all of these units are set up the same way. We have our overview. We have what your student will learn. We have the list of lessons. We have extra materials that you will need for this unit. We have teaching the Math with Confidence way. So this is where Kate Snow is teaching you the math behind this, and so that you have an understanding of what is this math that I'm about to be teaching. You know, maybe you're a little bit rusty with long division or fractions or that kind of thing. Totally normal. Kate Snow is going to give you a breakdown of how we're doing this and why we are doing it the way we are. And then we jump in. Lesson 4.1 has fractions on the number line. We are starting with our purpose up here. Identify fractional parts with pattern blocks, review, reading, writing, and comparing fractions, identify fractions with the number line, and then we're going to need pattern blocks, cards, and counters. We have our memory work. Love, love, love that this is built in. We have a little note to the teacher. We have our warm-up, finding fraction parts with pattern blocks. Again, keeping this hands-on, using materials that you probably already have. Okay, we have an activity for reviewing fractions. We have an activity for identifying fractions on the number line. We have a game in here, Fraction Line War. I love that there are so many games in this program. Some other programs have games. For example, Right Start Math has a lot of games, and I really do love their game book. And other programs also include games, but I really enjoy that I don't have to like think a lot to actually use a game. What ends up happening with me with other programs and in the past is that I know I have this list of games or all these game resources, and then I just kind of forget to do it, or it's not right in front of me. And so, then I have to get up and go find it, and then I lose everyone's attention, and then it's a whole to do. I really like that the games for Math with Confidence are like right here in the lesson. It is part of the lesson. It's not supplementary or extra. And they're pretty basic material wise. And then we move on to our next lesson. We have mixed numbers on the number line. Same format here, as expressing whole numbers as fractions. Another game, Fraction Crash. Express fractions as whole numbers or mixed numbers. Convert mixed numbers to fractions. Fraction 3 in a row, convert fractions to mixed numbers, add and subtract fractions. Okay, so thinking back to our list of what we need to do for 4th grade math, we are looking like fractions are pretty covered here. Multiply fractions by whole numbers, add mixed numbers, spin to win, subtract mixed numbers, fraction word problems, and then our enrichment lesson, which includes a book and a little activity, doubling a recipe. And then we have our Unit 4 answer key. So they have the answers for all the workbook pages are at the end of the unit, including the Unit 4 assessment right here. And then we have the Unit 4 checkpoint, what to expect at the end, and is your child ready to move on? Let's see what this unit looks like in the workbook. So here is Workbook A for 4th grade Math with Confidence. We have a table of contents within the workbook, and then it jumps right in. There is a little author's note about how these are laid out. One of the things I like about this workbook, and this is just me being super visual, each unit is a different color, so you can kind of quickly skim to a new unit, and they go in rainbow order. Thank you, Kate Snow, for that. So let's flip through here a little bit. Okay, so remember we had some review lessons. We had some looking at kind of big numbers. We had some multiplication, mental math. And now we're going to look at Unit 4. So again, each lesson has 3 pages. We have our lesson activity page. You're doing this with your child. This is kind of moving through that gradual release process. If you're unfamiliar with the gradual release process, it's this way of scaffolding instruction with our children where it's I do, like I, me, the teacher, I'm going to teach you how to do this, then we're going to do it together, we do, and then you do. That's going to be your practice page. So the I do is the direct instruction, that is, the bold stuff in here that you're reading to your child. Then the we do are your lesson activities that you're doing together. And then the you do is your practice right here. And then we have the review page in the back. I really love that every single lesson has a review page. The way we do this in our family is when I'm teaching the lesson with my son, who is finishing up Math with Confidence 3rd grade right now, we do this part, the lesson activities together, and then I send him off to do the practice page. I mean, he's sitting right next to me, but he does the practice page, and I start my math lesson with my daughter, who's finishing up Math with Confidence 1st grade, and then my son does the review page in the morning, the next morning for morning work. So he's only doing these 2 pages during our sit at the table school time, and then he does a review page during breakfast the next day. So that kind of makes our lessons for Math with Confidence so far between 1st grade through 3rd grade, kindergarten really through 3rd grade, have been about 15 to 25 minutes, depending on if we play the game multiple times, if there was something tricky, that kind of thing. So if we flip through here, we can see all of our different pages for the fraction unit. Lots of color, nice spacing, nice size. These are a good solid paperweight, just so you know. Like a pen would not bleed through on this. All right, let's jump back to our teacher guide for a minute. We're going to look at Unit 10 on long division. This is something that I know a lot of parents dread teaching. They remember, not enjoying long division themselves as a student, and now they have to get ready to teach it. And you might be thinking, why does my child need to do long division? We have calculators. It is important for our children and ourselves to know how to do this basic kind of computation stuff by hand. Yes, calculators are, useful and great tools down the road, but understanding what exactly we are doing when we are dividing a large number is important. So this goes over our overview, what your child will learn, your lesson list and materials, just like Unit 4. We have a teaching long division Math with Confidence way, how to make long division as painless as possible, okay? Talking about how to do this and why we're doing it. We start with dividing small numbers. We have a game. Reviewing simple long division. Math with Confidence 3rd grade introduced the concept of long division, and so now we're going to review that. Dividing 2-digit numbers without trading. Starting with concrete real-world examples here, talking about money. Divide 10s and 1s with play money. Introducing the full version of long division algorithm, so it's going to be broken down step by step. If we look in the book, Unit 10 here, Lesson 10.3. Okay, this right here, this is where you're teaching it and your child is looking at this with you, okay? So you have this written in here in a small form, and then we've got it kind of big up here, and we have the algorithm broken down. We have a little tool to help us remember. Dirty monkeys smell bad, divide, multiply, subtract, bring down the next digit, and then we have some practice. So this is like you're really doing your teaching, and they have this for you and your student to reference. Then we have lots of practice with that. We're pulling in the manipulative as needed. Divide 2-digit numbers with trading. Okay, a roll and divide game down here. Predict the number of digits in the quotient. How many digits game. Games for almost every lesson here. Divide 3-digit numbers with long division. Pulling in those base 10 blocks, really making this way for the child to really understand this conceptually. What exactly are we doing? We are not just teaching this dirty monkeys smell bad algorithm. We are helping them understand what it is we are doing. We don't want to just teach, how to do this step by step without understanding what it is we're doing. Because later when you do more advanced mathematics, you do need to have that deep understanding. Quotient game. Multiply and add to check long division. Great. I love that we're teaching how to check our work. We all know how careless errors can be a thing. Divide 4-digit numbers with long division. Solve word problems with long division. Enrichment lesson. Okay, we're looking at finding the number of calories in each cookie or a cracker, pulling in, nutrition facts. There's a picture book for this. And then again, our answer key here. If we look at our workbook, we have our activities in here. Keeping that algorithm, the directions right there for the student so they don't have to flip back and forth to the next page. If you do find that you need to reference this a lot, these pages are perforated. You can just pull this out and stick it in one of those like clear plastic vinyl menu page things that has like 6 sleeves, and that's what I do. I wish I had that in front of me. Let me go grab it. So one of the resources I use alongside Math with Confidence is I get these menu things off Amazon. I'll link them below. And I print off a color page that matches the book cover. So this is our 1st grade and 3rd grade one we're using this year. And we slip in the different number mats and, resources that we end up pulling from a lot. And so this is really helpful for us. So if you find that you need to like rip a game page out because you're using it a lot, or you need to have this, quickly accessible for your student, you can just slip it in one of these clear thingy-mabobbers. Okay, so flipping through here, looking at our different things, we have our game pages in here. Again, we have this algorithm like on every page, how to do this. You're not going to forget it. You're going to remember that divide, multiply, subtract, bring down. Lesson activities, we've got some word problems here. I love that this is kind of gridded out for us, color coordinated, really cueing in for our visual learners. Again, we have that review work on every lesson. And then we have our unit wrap up, which is usually 2 pages. Let's see, is it still 2 pages? It still is 2 pages. Okay, so we have, different things to work on here. We've got our word problems, and that is unit 10. Let's look really quick at our teacher guide one more time. We're going to jump to the end where we have our resources. You can download these as Blackline Masters from Well Trained Mind website. So you can have them, printed out separate, or, I end up pasting these in a Schoolnest notebook. So I have a Schoolnest notebook that I use for each year. They're like the companion notebooks that go with her planners. And I print these out and like paste them in that notebook so I don't lose them. So you don't have to copy this. You can just get a PDF of it. So we have our picture book list. We have all of our memory work that is built in. We have our nicely laid out scope and sequence here with each unit, and then our objectives for each unit. Objectives are teacher talk for what is it we want our child to learn. We have our material list, what you'll need in your math kit, and then other supplies. This is stuff like tape, scissors, like that kind of stuff. We have our guide to the Blackline Masters, digital copies of Blackline Masters, talking about how to download these, how to reference them, short-term use, optional Blackline Masters. This memory work, Blackline Master, I put these in our menus here. Okay, these are like nice little reference guides for our students. We have multiplication chart, multiplication assessment, place value, degree wheel, all these little things that we use throughout the thing. Geometry reference page, some more black lines for printing, pattern blocks. If you don't have pattern blocks and you're working on a budget or whatever, you can print these off. Your kid can color them and just use these pieces. You don't use them that often. It might just be a couple of the units. So, you don't have to go out and buy them if you don't have them already. Base 10 blocks, play money, acknowledgements, and that is that. If we look really quick at the end of the second workbook, B, we have this nice kind of end of program activity page. It's rainbow color all around the edges. That's how you know it's different from Unit 16. And if you do like Charlotte Mason portfolios, this is a nice thing to kind of stick in your end of year portfolio. Or if you do portfolios as part of your homeschool, evaluation, your state requirements, this is a nice kind of end of year, look what my child has learned. Several pages. You can do this over the course of a week. This is part of the lessons, 16.8, 16.7. And then you have a nice little certificate at the end. So that is a quick flip through of Math with Confidence 4th grade. I have not used this program yet because it was just released and I was not part of their pilot program. My son will be finishing up Math with Confidence 3 in the next 2 weeks. Yay! He loves that program, by the way. And we will be doing Math with Confidence 4th grade in the fall. So I hope you found this helpful. If you found it helpful, please hit that like button. Definitely subscribe to my channel if you are new here. And if you have questions or comments, leave them below and I will get back to you. Thanks, everyone.